Welcome to No Nonsense Psychiatry, the podcast that cuts through the noise and the confusion surrounding mental health. My name is Mark and I'm your host, and my goal is to give you the clear, practical information you need to understand your own well-being. No jargon, no fluff, just honest, helpful tools to help you on your journey. Let's dive in.
No nonsense.
Welcome back to No Nonsense Psychiatry, the podcast that dissects the darkest corners of the human mind. I'm your host Mark, and today we're confronting an emotion that has shattered empires, destroyed careers, and ended lives. The green-eyed monster. It's been lurking in the shadows since the dawn of civilization, but what happens when envy and jealousy move from the private feeling to the public act of destruction? On this episode, we're taking a deep dive into the psychology of wanting what someone else has versus fearing the loss of what you already own. We'll unpack the tragic historic outcomes from the political and personal ruin caused by Booth brothers, sibling envy, to the silent, insidious damage of workplace sabotage driven by malicious rivalry, and we'll clearly define the psychology between envy and jealousy and reveal the measurable physical toll these emotions can take on the body, from cortisol spikes to hypervigilance. Whether you are struggling with this monster inside you yourself, or you're the victim of a jealous or envious person, this episode is your vital guide. We're going to give you actionable strategies to manage the urge and crucial boundaries to protect yourself. So, do you really want to be around you when the green-eyed monster takes control? Find out now and stay with us. So throughout history and modern life, when envy and jealousy are allowed to fester unchecked, they have led to truly catastrophic real-life outcomes, ranging from the destruction of relationships to violence and even the downfall of powerful figures. The breakdown of romantic relationships, in a very common real-life outcome, uncontrolled romantic jealousy is a frequent cause of separation, divorce, and emotional abuse. The partner becomes excessively suspicious, intrusive, and controlling due to an irrational fear of another leaving them for a rival. Even a hypothetical one, often referred to as retroactive jealousy over a partner's past. The non-jealous partner, suffocated by constant interrogation, surveillance and distrust, eventually leaves, and proving that the initial fear of loss to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the relationship is destroyed not by an existential rival, but by the destructive nature of the jealous partner's own insecurity and control. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln, sibling envy. While the primary motive was political, the tragic outcome was intensified by a lifetime of intense sibling rivalry and envy between the Booth brothers. So Edwin Booth was the premier, highly celebrated Shakespearean actor of his time, famous and revered. His younger brother John struggled to achieve the same level of fame and was reportedly intensely envious of Edwin's success. John Wilkes Booth's heinous act of assassinating President Lincoln in 1865 not only ended a life and traumatized the nation, but it also completely and irrevocably ruined his brother Edwin's legacy and career. Though Edwin was innocent, the shame of his family name over being forever associated with the crime led to him temporarily retiring from acting. The younger brother, consumed by political extremism and professional envy, essentially destroyed his own life and cast a permanent shadow over his successful brother. Then there's workplace sabotage. So in modern contexts, malicious envy in a professional sphere can lead to serious ethical and career-ending breaches. So a colleague receives a major promotion, a public award, or an opportunity that another colleague feels they deserved. The envious colleague cannot channel the feeling into self-improvement, a benign envy, and instead feels a burning desire to tear the successful person down. This can manifest as sabotage, deliberately withholding critical information, destroying a project, slander, spreading malicious or false rumours to the boss or HR, or backstabbing that ruins the reputation and career prospects of the envied person. And while less physically tragic, this than the historical example with President Lincoln. These acts can end careers, create toxic work environments, and lead to mental health crisis for all that are involved. So these stories highlight that when the green-eyed monster is given control, the consequences are rarely limited to the person feeling the emotion. They often extend to cause significant, long-lasting damage to others and the surrounding systems. Jealousy and envy are often used interchangeably, but in psychology, they have a distinct meaning. So here is the breakdown of two emotions. Envy. I want what you want. Envy is a painful feeling that arises when you lack a desired attribute, possession or achievement that is involved, that is enjoyed by somebody else. It focuses on the item or quality that is missing in your own life. The parties, it involves a two-person comparison, you versus the other person. The feelings involved often include feelings of inferiority, longing, and sometimes resentment towards the person who has what you want. There's types of envy. There's benign envy, which is it can be a positive motivator, driving you to work harder to achieve a similar success or quality, or it can be a malicious envy, which leads to resentment and a wish for the other person to lose whatever they have, even if you don't gain it. Jealousy itself, I'm afraid of losing what you have, is a reaction to be a perceived threat to a valued relationship or possession that you already have. Okay, so it focuses on the loss or threat to secure connection or possession, and the parties, it involves a free person dynamic. You, the valued person or item, and the rival, the threat. So feelings are often characterized by fear, anxiety, anger, suspicion, and insecurity about being replaced or excluded. So the common context is that it's commonly discussed that in the context of a romantic relationship, a rival for a partner's affection can also occur between siblings, friends, or co-workers competing for the attention of the boss. So can you both feel at the same time? Yes, obviously. The two emotions can overlap and intensify each other. For example, you might feel jealous that your partner is spending a lot of time with a new friend, that fear of losing their attention, and also feel envious of the friend's charm or success, desiring their qualities. Understanding the difference can be helpful for recognizing and managing emotions when they arise. When we experience strong emotions like jealousy and envy, they're not just all in our heads. They trigger significant and measurable physical reactions in the body through the sympathetic nerve system, our fight or flight response, and the hormonal system. So here's a breakdown of what these two emotions physically do to a person. The physical toll of envy and jealousy. So both emotions share the same physical responses because they are often experienced as forms of stress or social threat. Number one, the adrenaline and cortisol surge, the stress response. So when you feel intense envy, pain over lacking, or jealousy, fear of losing, your brain interprets this as a threat, triggering the fight or flight mechanism. Heart races increase, your heart pumps faster to send more oxygen to your muscles, preparing you for action. Your blood pressure rises, and the increase in cardiac output elevates the blood pressure. Adrenaline spikes, hormones like adrenaline and non-adrenaline flood your system, leading to feelings of agitation and restlessness. And cortisol release. And this is the primary stress hormone. Cortisol is released, which is sustained as in chronic jealousy or envy, can suppress the immune system and cause weight gain. Then there's the digestive and muscular effects, and the stress response redirects resources away from non-essential functions like digestion. So muscle tension, you might feel it in your shoulders, your jaw, or your neck tense up, and the constant tension can lead to headaches and chronic pain. Then there's the stomach drop feeling, and the blood flow is diverted away from the stomach, often causing that kind of knot in your gut, the nausea, feeling sick, or digestive issues like irritable bowel syndrome or acid reflux. And during long periods, particularly during long prolonged periods of stress. Then it affects sleep and energy. So chronic high levels of envy and jealousy often lead to severely disrupt the body's natural rhythms, and so the insomnia starts to creep in. The constant rumination, obsessively thinking, combined with high cortisol levels, makes it difficult to relax and fall asleep. It makes sense, doesn't it? Then, of course, it's fatigue. So paradoxically, despite the adrenaline spikes, the chronic stress and lack of sleep, of course, leads to exhaustion and a drained feeling. So what makes them slightly different? While the core stress response is similar, the cognitive load, the way you think, changes, which can lead to slightly difficult physical manifestations. So jealousy being the emotion, fear or suspicion, where are they, who are they talking to, is often associated with hypervigilance, constant scanning the environment, difficult concentrating, and the agitation, restlessness, pacing or fidgeting. Envy, for instance, that inferior resentment, I'm not good enough, why don't I have what they have, is often associated with the feeling of heaviness or depression or lack of motivation. If the feeling is chronic and malicious, it can become internalized, leading to a low mood and, of course, then social withdrawal. Neurological studies, research on these emotions have measurable differences in brain activity. So studies show that experiencing malicious envy, the desire for another person to lose, can actually activate the dorsal striatum, the part of the brain associated with reward. So when an envied person feels misfortune, their feeling of pleasure at another person's pain can cause a momentary brief physical rush and a feeling of satisfaction, even though the underlying stress remains. Jealousy often shows a heightened activity in the areas of the brain that handles social pain and threat detection, mirroring the pain felt during a physical injury. So in short, these strong emotions are physically experienced as chronic stress, which can over time be seriously detrimental to the cardiovascular health of your body, your immune function, and of course your mental well-being. Have you ever looked at these emotions, or should I say, however you look at these emotions, the person feeling the emotion seems to just feel terrible. And for anyone around them, they are suffering in so many ways too. You have to ask yourself, would you want to be around you and the green-eyed monster? The victims of jealousy and envy often suffer with the most profound and lasting psychological damage. So victims typically report experience a combination of emotional, relational, and physical consequences resulting from the jealous and envious person's behaviour. And the impact can be broken down based on the distinct behaviours of the envious person. Focus on sabotage, undermining a perceived advantage versus a jealous person. Focus on control, threat to the relationship. Victims of jealousy, the partner or the loved one, since jealousy is centered on the fear of losing a valued relationship, the victim is often, or usually, the partner or loved one is subjected to controlling and abusive behaviours. A loss of self-identity, the victim reports feeling that their personal, they report feeling that their personal space, their independence, or even their ability to make a choice have been erased. The controlling partner insists on isolating them from family and friends, demanding access to their phone and email, and dictating their activities. That constant anxiety and stress, so living under perpetual suspicion, is exhausting, right? So victims often report being hypervigilant, constantly walking on eggshells, and trying desperately to preemptively avoid triggering their partner's next jealous outburst. Then there's the guilt, confusion, and self-doubt. Victims will know this. The jealous partner often makes the victim feel like their behaviour, talking to a colleague, being late for work, is often a root cause of jealousy. The victim reports feeling guilty, leading them to constantly question their own reality and sanity. Am I being unreasonable? Am I causing this? And then, of course, there's the fear and the trauma. In extreme cases, morbid jealousy. Victims' severe fear, as the jealousy can lead to an escalating emotion, verbal and physical violence. So behavioural reports isolation. The victim reports effectively being cut off from their support network, making the controlling partner the only person they have to rely on.
If you're enjoying the podcast so far and appreciate our straight talking approach to mental wellness, please take a moment to hit the subscribe or follow button on your app right now. It takes 2 seconds and it makes a massive difference. It improves the content. The more the show grows, the better the resource and the production we can bring to you each week. It helps others, and a large subscriber base pushes these practical insights out to people who need them the most. And remember, this isn't just a monologue. We want this show to be a collaborative hub. And if you're a clinician with boots on the ground experience or someone with a powerful story of resilience, I want you to be on the podcast. Let's have a real conversation and cut through the noise together. If that's you, check out our guest link in the show notes. For now, let's jump back in today's episode.
Then the exhaustive reassurance, they feel compelled to provide constant heroic efforts to prove their innocence, which never satisfies the jealous partner, leading to frustration and inevitably exhaustion. Victims of envy, the successful advantage person, for instance, since envy is centered on the pain of lacking what the other person has, the victim is the person who possesses the desired trait, success, beauty, talent, status, or object. And the envious person, their goal is often to diminish or destroy that advantage. Psychologically, in emotional reports undermining self-worth, victims are often targeted with subtle, passive-aggressive remarks or backhanded compliments that make them feel small or undeserving. Victims report starting to feel flawed or unlucky without knowing why, because the envy is often covert. There's confused and mistrustfulness. So envy often manifests as gossip, slander, or sabotage, and the victims report confusion as opportunities seem to dry up as their reputation is mysteriously tarnished by outright lies or distortions of the truth. They become leery about trusting others. Feeling responsible for the feelings of others. Victims often report feeling the need to diminish their own success or play small, i.e. hiding a promotion or downplaying good news, to avoid triggering the other person's wrath, which limits their happiness and ambition. And then there's behavioural reports of exclusion, and the envious person may actively turn against the victim, leading to social isolation in the workplace or community setting. And of course, career sabotage. Victims in professional settings report having their work deliberately hindered, their efforts belittled in front of the managers, or having their ideas stolen or blocked, leading to a loss of job opportunities, friendships, and even career advancement. In summary, victims of jealousy report being controlled, interrogated, and emotionally abused in the efforts to prevent loss, while victims of envy report being undermined, sabotaged, and slandered in an effort to diminish their standing or success. If you're a person who feels jealousy or envious, this part is for you. Why is it nearly impossible to completely eliminate the feeling of envy and jealousy, as they are in natural human emotions? You can absolutely develop strategies to control how you react to them and prevent them from becoming destructive. Here are 3 highly effective strategies for managing and minimizing the impact of jealousy and envy. Practice radical self-awareness and redefine the emotion. The first and most important step is to understand why you are feeling this way instead of suppressing the emotion and analyze it. So the strategy is, when you feel a familiar pang, immediately pause and label the emotion specifically. Is this envy? Is this I want something they have, suggesting a perceived lack in my life? Is this jealousy? I fear losing someone or something I value, suggesting an insecurity about my own worth. The action is to reframe and use the pain as a map for your values, not a judgment of your worth. So for envy, if you envy a friend's dedication to fitness, that isn't about them, it's about your own unfulfilled value of your health. So use the feeling as a motivation to create your own fitness plan. And for jealousy, if you feel jealous of a partner or a co-worker, it's often rooted in security. Am I valued? Am I enough? So instead of controlling the partner, focus on reinforcing your own internal sense of worth and communicating your need for security directly and calmly. So you build a comparison fence and stop social comparison. So both envy and jealousy are fueled by comparing your life's internal reality, your struggles, failures, and daily grind, to someone else's external highlighted reel, their wins, their created images, or their apparent perfection. The strategy is to actively and intentionally limit comparative behavior. So the action, stop, the scroll, zoom out. So limit social media. Social platforms are factories for envy, right? So reduce time spent viewing or curated content. Strategically mute and unfollow accounts that are constantly triggering that feeling of inadequacy. Focus on the behind the scenes. Remind yourself that you're only seeing this finished article, this product, the promotion, the engagement, the perfect photo. You don't see the years of effort, the debt, the failures, or the insecurity that went into achieving that outcome. So your journey is unique and it's not comparable with anything. Practice gratitude. Daily or weekly, list things that you do possess and value. Gratitude is the single most effective antidote to envy, and it forces you to focus on abundance rather than lack. Change the dynamic from rivalry to collaboration. A strong feeling of envy can be transformed by learning to celebrate the success of others, shifting your focus from why not me to how do I get that too. The strategy, instead of seeing a successful person as a rival, view them as an inspiration and a resource. And then the action, reach out and learn. Identify the blueprint. If you envy someone else's career path, study what they did to get there. What skills did they learn? What risks did they take? Seek connection, not competition. It's an appropriate, genuine congratulate the person. You can even ask, that's fantastic news. What was the hardest part of achieving X? This transforms the successful person into a mentor and makes you feel less isolated and more empowered to pursue your own goals, right? And it fosters benign envy, motivation, to over malicious envy, which is destructive. So you're shifting the focus to benign envy, that motivational envy, over the malicious envy, which is the destructive part. By consistently applying these strategies, you convert the painful energy of jealousy and envy into productive energy for self-improvement and relational security. If you're a victim of jealousy and envy, this bit's for you. Here are 3 strategies for managing the situation if you are a target of jealousy and envy, particularly in relationship and professional settings. Establish and enforce firm boundaries. This is the most crucial step for protection, as jealous and envious persons often feel entitled to your time, your space, and your information. So for jealousy, irrational control. The boundaries define what is and isn't acceptable behaviour regarding your communication and time. You firmly state, I will not show you my private messages, or I am happy to tell you where I'm going, but I will not text you every 30 minutes. My time with my friends is private, so stick to the boundary calmly and resolute. Do not let jealous person's anxiety become your responsibility to manage. For envy, there's that professional sabotage, so boundary. Limit their access to your work, your ideas, and your personal life. So don't share the next big project idea until it's officially documented, and reduce personal conversation with them, as any information you share will be weaponized later. Name the behavior and document the facts. The goal is to move the conversation away from emotional arguments towards objective, documented behavior. Name the behavior, not the emotion. So instead of saying, "You're so jealous," which is emotionally charged anyway, describe the actions. When you accuse me of lying about my whereabouts, it makes me feel distrusted and anxious. Or when you spread rumours about my project, this is sabotage. Document and collect evidence. For jealousy, keep a record of accusations, controlling demands, abusive language, and that includes dates, times, and what was said. This is vital if the relationship escalates, or if you decide to seek professional help or even legal protection. For envy, in a work environment, save emails, minutes from meetings, and any proof of their undermining actions. If they exclude you from crucial email, document the timing and the impact. This provides the concrete facts for HR, because that's probably where it will go. Focus on your supporters and not your attacker. Jealousy and envy thrive when they successfully isolate the victim. Re-engaging your health support system is essential for maintaining your worth, your self-worth and perspective. Seek validation outside the conflict. Stop trying to convince the jealous, envious person of your worth or innocence. That's a battle you can't win, because their feelings stem from their own insecurity, not your actions. Remember that. Lean on trusted confidants, so spend time with friends, family, or mentors who genuinely celebrate your success and who can validate your perspective. They help you realize that toxic behavior you're facing is abnormal and it's unacceptable. Consult professional help. A therapist can provide tools for dealing with abuse, help you rebuild your self-esteem, and assist you in making safely in making decisions about leaving a toxic relationship or reporting an incident at work. If you're a victim of severe, controlling, and physically threatening jealousy, please prioritize your safety and reach out to a domestic violence hotline or local resources immediately. So that brings us to the end of our discussion on jealousy and envy. We've seen today that whether you're the person experiencing the fear or loss or the victim of someone else's bitter resentment, the consequences are very, very real. These emotions aren't just thoughts, they are chronic stress loads on your mind and your body, leading to physical damage, shattered relationships, and lost opportunities. But remember the key takeaways, right? If you are the one feeling the monster, use those strategies. Redefine your pain and map to your core values. Build a comparison fence around your life and transform rivalry into collaboration. If you're a target of destructive behavior, your priority is protection, and you must establish and enforce firm boundaries, document the facts, and lean on your support network as a safeguard to identify your well-being. Your mental peace is paramount, whoever you are. Don't let someone else's insecurity or your own unchecked feelings dictate the quality of your life. Thank you for tuning in to No Nonsense Psychiatry, episode 93, The Green-Eyed Monster. We'll be back next time to tackle another challenging aspect of human experience. But until then, stay mindful, stay healthy, and choose the path of self-awareness.
Before we go, if you found the podcast helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit from it. You can also support the show by subscribing and leaving a review. It only takes a moment, but it makes a big difference in helping us reach more people. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode of No Nonsense Psychiatry.
No